Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to Watches Tonight. Thank you for joining me. This evening, we talk hilarious counterfeits, Breitling Navitimer versus Omega Moonwatch, common watch buying mistakes you might make. I'll tell you how you can avoid them. Picking a Loupe, and why I didn't answer your email. All of this and viewer wrist shots tonight on Watches Tonight. I want to emphasize there is no better place than thewatchbox.com to buy, sell, and trade watches. I have bought, sold, and traded watches on thewatchbox.com, so I speak of my own experience. See my videos, see over 2,000 pre-owned and vintage timepieces in peak condition with boxes, papers, and accessories, and we're going to give you something for your trouble. Check the description and you'll find that there is a link to enter our October watch giveaway for a Seiko Astron GPS Solar. Yes, it is all of those things, GPS and solar. Batting practice, guys. Warming up with your pitches and my cuts. By the way, it's a very cool watch, I have to say. I love the idea of its perpetual readiness. Time to run, where we call BS on the web's worst watch sales listing. Okay, first, let me welcome all of our friends. Jan Wilhelm Koster, welcome. Hell Bop, Russell996, Eric Cecil, Marco B, Robert Dixon of Scotland, Eric Nielsen, JBO Surf of Adelaide, Australia, Ryan H, PY7, Alexi Simola of Finland, Edward, of course, of Sweden. Guys, thank you for joining me tonight. Let's talk about the worst of the web. Occasionally bold and or dumb, con artists offer their goods directly to dealers. And this JLC was forwarded to Armand on our sales floor in the past week. Now, I have to say, bear in mind that the real deal looks like this, and I've owned it, and we have two in stock, so this was pretty bold on the guy's part. All that said, the real thing is a manual wind, which you can't see from that image, and that's important because the offered watch has been upgraded to automatic winding. Impressive stuff. Blued screws. Very nice. Now, to sweeten the deal, we were offered this gem with box, assuredly from the original factory JLC set. Oh, I'm sorry, guys, I threw up in my throat a little bit. So, since we already have the two in the inventory, we decided to pass on that. Now, I've always mused that if I had not collected jaeger-lecoultre, I would have been a Lange collector. It's easy to understand. The craft, the tradition, the quality, the uncompromising standards. And this particular Lange tourbillon, courtesy of our viewer Trevor S., gives me everything I love in Lange with my personal favorite black dial white metal combination. Check out those slick caseback blued screws too. Okay, granted it's thread lock in this case, but they got the color right. Now, check out that micro rotor. Must be a Saxomat. Oh wait, my bad. That's the entire movement. Okay, I wouldn't call this monstrosity a Lange, but still, this watch says, anytime you call me, you can call me Al. Paul Simon, Chevy Chase would be spinning in their graves if they weren't both still alive. All right, guys. I give the seller credit because he boldly proclaimed Men Watch in the listing, and accidental truth in advertising was the result. If you look at the description page, that's some unintentional good advice front and center inside the description of goods. If we can go full screen with that one, guys. This guy probably speaks the truth. I would take his advice. Run fast, run far from this one. Okay, guys, help me name and shame improve the e-commerce ecosystem. Survival of the fittest, end bad watch listings. Send your time to run candidates to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com. All right, let's see who's joining me, and then we'll jump to Ben K's question. I see Dave the Watch Guy's with us. UXXV is right here. John Smith, Joe G, Cheng Hong, Paul SG joining from the UK, and I can see our friend Naresh Pape from Halifax. Guys, thank you for tuning in. This is an interesting question. Tim, since you've paired your collection, this is from Ben K, do you have any guidance concerning how many watches is too many watches? I should clarify that I didn't pair my collection because I thought I had too many watches. My collection represented a goal fulfilled. I was happy, and new challenges are calling me, including new challenges inside the watch world. So regarding how many is too many, I always start with the question of how often you wear your least worn pieces. So it might be that once a year is enough for you to justify keeping the watch. You enjoy it once a year and you're satisfied with that. You look forward to wearing it when it's not on your wrist. That might be okay, but I always believe that disuse and serial disuse is an indicator that a watch is surplus. Now, are you struggling to keep all of them in good running order. In the car world, we call this the dreaded previous owner. Don't be the DPO. If you can't keep up the maintenance, don't shuffle them off to the next buyer. Even if you owned 10 high-end Omegas, you might be looking every 3 to 5 years at $6,000 worth of service. If you're continuously falling behind on service and all of your watches are past overhaul due, that might be a sign that you're a bit overwhelmed and it's time to lighten the load. I'll also say that finally, is there one watch you would prefer to own over 2 or more of your current collection? It might be that unloading 3 steel Breitlings gives you the money to buy the Zenith Dayfi El Primero 21 that you really wanted. And that's a case of taking 3 watches you don't want or don't wear and turning them into metal on your wrist. All right. Santiago D asks, Tim, I'm trying to decide between the Breitling Navitimer B01 chronograph 43 and the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch coaxial chronograph. Help me to decide. I can do that. Let's get size and price out of the way first, because that's always paramount. It's tough to get by a watch you can't afford or can't wear. So the Breitling is 43, but because of the span across the lugs, it's about 52 and change from lug to lug. It wears bigger than the Omega, and it wears bigger than its 43. The Omega is a 44.25, but it's about 50 millimeters lug to lug, which means it wears more compact. I can wear them both, but I find the Omega fits just a bit better. Now, both are steel and automatic. That's a wash. The Navitimer costs $8,215 US on leather, but jumps to $9,160 on a full steel bracelet. It's an imposing piece on either, but that's serious coin. The Omega Speedmaster costs $8,600 on leather, but there's only a $100 upcharge to get it on a factory Omega steel bracelet. And that's on steel, guys. A factory steel bracelet. Rock solid. Omega bracelets are as good as Rolex today. Getting that quality for an extra $100 is something that's too good to ignore. We're going to talk about getting the bracelet later in the show, but let's stick to this topic. Both manufacturers use manufacturer calibers. Both of these are in-house automatics. Omega owns tech sophistication with the coaxial, but Breitling has a 10-hour edge on power reserve. This one's a wash. No advantage here. Water resistant flows to the Omega. 100 meters water resistant flows to the Omega compared to the no-swim 30 meters of the Breitling. Intangibles. This is where the Breitling pulls ahead from my perspective. First, it is the icon of Breitling, and the Navitimer B0143 is about as close to an essential or core Navitimer as anything in the current collection. There is no exact stand-in for the 40mm 1954 manual wind reference 806. So in terms of core collection, this is as pure gets with Breitling today. I'll also say that the Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch coaxial is to Omega something of a peripheral watch, whereas the Breitling is like the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch, the manual wind NASA issue, or the Rolex no-date sub, the 114060. The Omega coaxial Speedmaster Moonwatch is more of a peripheral watch, part of a collection that's changed every few years. So in terms of core collection, the Breitling is right here. The Omega is a little bit off the center, and it's not quite that essential Moonwatch. So advantage Navitimer. Plus, this Navitimer just feels more special. It's more unlike anything else out there. With that calculator bezel, it's a distinctive look. It has authenticity, it has history behind it, and it has individuality. In an era when Breitling is lost, this watch knows exactly what it stands for. This is Breitling found. Okay. Make mine the epic silver, black, and blue Navitimer, however, that bowed at Basel World this year. I feel like this is not just the Navitimer to own, this is the most underappreciated new Breitling of the Georges Kern era. Okay, Jordan O. Let's see who's joining us in here. I can see we've got a friend saying get both. Robert Dixon is joining in, asking a question about older Omega, I think, and I have a comment from Clive Watch Wrangler saying that he doesn't like his Speedmaster bracelet. You got to try the latest issue. Quite solid. Jumping to the next question in line, Jordan O asks, Tim, did you say that the Patek Philippe 5170R is for women? No, I didn't. What I said was that this is a friendly watch for smaller wrists. It's a timepiece that can be considered a unisex option. And by the way, that's yours truly right there. I think the 39.4 wears nicely on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. And yes, smaller wrists does include ladies' wrists. Now, compared to its 42mm predecessor, the Patek 5070, which was a 42mm, this 39.4mm chronograph is just a better option for those who are slight of forearm. I still like the way that looks on my wrist all the same. Smaller watches, smaller wrists, they tend to go together. I never intended to say that was a lady's watch. Neither one is. Okay, Stepan F asks, Tim, why don't you ever answer your email? I've emailed you 5 times with my question and received no response. Not cool. Okay, in the old days of Watch You Want, I used to stay up literally all night because we needed to stay in business and we were small, and I had very little incoming email, responding to excruciating direct mail inquiries about everything from our inventory to literally eye-watering, like Opus-style emails about which pin buckle you should get as an accessory. Now, this is no longer possible. Figuratively speaking, my email went from this, a manageable stream, beautiful house, by the way, to this, a paralyzing torrent of terror. I can no longer handle my constantly moving inbox and still write these shows and film the videos. Something's got to give, so I try to interact on this show. I do read every email that you guys send me, and I try to respond to every comment that you make underneath these videos. In the week after I post this show, I do my best to keep the landscaping of that comment thread active and updated. You can also contact me via my Instagram, Tim_Masso. I always try to respond to the same day responses to pictures and videos I post. These guys do it all. Okay, so in the future, I hope to assemble some sort of corporate social calendar so I can get out of here with a travel schedule and arrange more Ask Me Anything type meetings with you guys in person and collector get-togethers. You know, that's important. Okay, not that. That's more like it, guys. I think we've got another. There we go. That's my idea of a collector get-together. But the point is, I want to be able to get together with you guys in small, intimate settings so I can speak to you face-to-face. A travel schedule and a social calendar will be the only solution, but that's in the works. By the way, Valley Forge Casino Hotel, October 27th, Blue Oyster Cult concert. Me and Mike Michaels, meet me there. Viewer wrist shots. Your piece is on my pixels. Here's one of my favorite features because I get to see what you guys are actually wearing. Len Y gets us off the block with his lush salmon dial Patek Gondolo 5124G. And that is the original launch model. Simon H proves that there's more to vintage Omega chronographs than Speedmasters with his 1966 Seamaster 105005. Martin B has extensively rebranded his hardware. I love the levity, especially the Rolex and the do-it-yourself Mercedes-Benz. And here's his Rolex for reals. You wear it well. Musically inclined man, nicely composed. Dr. Bobby K rocks with 2 of my favorite machines, including the latest Vacheron Constantin Overseas Automatic with blue dial. I'm a big Jaguar fan, and a Vacheron fan for that matter. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. Okay, James A asking, Tim, what loupe do you recommend for viewing watches in detail? Great question, and the counterintuitive answer is going to be the solution. But first, I recommend you log on to Auto Fry or some equivalent Watchmakers Supply corporate sales page, and the first thing you do is check out the Bosch & Lomb lineup. Everything from 4 power up to 10, and I think you need to buy a halo ring first, because watchmakers don't hold loupes with their hand. They hold watches with their hands to get the best purchase and be able to angle them carefully. Get the halo, and then get the loupe. Now, I would go straight to the 10 power loupe. Why? Because I have paid for a watch. I want to see it in the greatest possible detail. A Rolex or Grand Seiko dial, a Vacheron Constantin or Lange caseback. It's worth getting the 10 power because those details only come out, God only comes out, when you have the detail vision to see things that are small, and a 10 power gets you closer. A compound lens loupe with 10 power is going to be pretty much the ultimate, and the good news is it will give you both excellent detail and, thanks to the compound lenses, 3 in this case, very little distortion. There is no need to pay $500 to $600 for a loupe system, but people do. I own one. It's very nice. I was given it for free. I would probably just use cheap 10 power loupes if I didn't have one, and I certainly wouldn't pony up the 565 for the Hodinkee version, but again, it's your prerogative. They have them in 3, 6, and 10 power. I wouldn't even bother with the 3 and the 6. Go straight for 10 if you're spending that kind of money. Some people say field of vision is preferable. I prefer to see details. And finally, once again, you don't have to spend more than 60 bucks on the Halo and the 10 Power both combined. Auto Fry. Primary feature tonight. Let me see right here. Marek N asking, before we jump into that, Tim, what do you think of Ralph Lauren watches, specifically the JLC-powered chronographs? Almost everything Ralph Lauren sells under his no-joke Richemont joint venture brand, Ralph Lauren watches, from 2008 when they signed that agreement, they had top-notch movements, top-notch case-making and dial-making equipment, and real money spent on watches. We've talked about how old Roger Dubuis used to be a buy. It's not anymore. How Chopard LUC is eventually going to have its day. Someday, a long time from now, the next hot craze for people who know watches and get ahead of trends is going to be the stuff Ralph Lauren marketed. Not the fashion watches, the real luxury pieces. Everything from Piaget, jaeger-lecoultre, IWC, even Fabrique du Tourbillon movements. With second-to-none case and dial guilloche, wooden case and dial components permanently stabilized. Incredible stuff. Buy it pre-owned or you're going to get fleeced. I cannot think of another watch that is more appropriate as a pre-owned purchase and less appropriate as a new buy. Jumping in. Sean M. joining us. Greeting, Tim, a tad late. You're just in time for our main feature tonight, which is common watch buying mistakes to avoid. Now, an informed consumer is an empowered consumer. You know it, I know it, we've both been there. And if you're getting into the hobby, this is a great, quick case study in mistakes I and others have made, so you don't have to. I've learned parts of this at almost every turn of my life, but some of it's watch specific. General lessons. Colleges and lawyers with the best commercials generally are the ones you should avoid. Other lessons. I've learned about watches too. For example, the brand equity and strength of a company's brand image and ability to sell its watches at list in general is inversely proportional to the number of airplanes and or pilots in its advertising. Moreover, that goes double when the ads include airplanes and celebrity pilots. True fact. Life lessons. Now, tonight, I'm sharing a handful of the lessons I've learned during my time in the watch space. As a collector and an employer and employee of several vendors of ever-escalating scale and stature, I've seen quite a few common mistakes, and I've almost caught myself making a few of these over the years. First, failing to opt for the bracelet. This is a cardinal sin of watch buyers, especially those who do buy new. Here's why. When I was in the Navy, this is an example, I would have paid less, but orders of magnitude are equal at every given price point. So I could have bought the original Omega X33 on a bracelet, full titanium Omega factory bracelet, for around $1,000. I could have had the same watch on the Kevlar strap for $700. This was the military purchase program. You got it basically at cost. So I can promise you that the cost of buying that bracelet after the fact, even for a Swatch subsidized service member, was not $300. This continues upon resale. You're not going to ask only a $300 premium for that watch on the bracelet versus a strap when you go to sell it again. Now, look to our lessons from earlier portions of the show. You saw that the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch coaxial chronograph cost $100 more if you wanted to upgrade from a strap to a bracelet. $100 buy-in to upgrade to a bracelet that would cost most of $1,000 if you bought it as an accessory. That is a no-brainer. That is literally a no-brainer. Literally any celebrity on TMZ would be smart enough to make that choice. Don't be that guy. Okay. Now, you might even love the bracelet. This is the part where you could be taken by surprise. You might not be a bracelet guy, you might love it, and you've saved yourself $100 to $300 every 6 to 12 months buying a new strap. That is an advantage that just compounds over time. And I have to say, not buying the bracelet on an already expensive luxury watch is like taking a $2,000 deductible and declining rental car coverage on your auto insurance so you can save $5 a month on your premium. Not worth it. Guys, unless we're talking a crazy precious metal watch where the upcharge is going to be tens of thousands of dollars, get the bracelet, please. And for the sake of added value, durability, and retained value, plus the ability to get it wet without a second thought, just go for the bracelet. The investment will pay off when it comes time to sell, if nothing else. Put it away in your safe deposit box, put it on a strap, save that bracelet, you'll want it later. Now, the next big question people make. This is where you need to be a good active listener and a critical thinker. Don't just look at the listing and read the description and scrutinize the photos. Failing to ask questions is one of the biggest mistakes people make when buying a watch. Here's where people fall by the wayside in the process. The first thing is that they don't discuss the terms of return and the approval. If you don't buy your seller before you buy the watch, you've failed. You've set yourself up with a huge liability, and it's going to blindside you if you want to return that watch. And the person says materials and workmanship defects only. If it doesn't fit you or you simply don't like the watch, it would have been great if you knew beforehand if buyer's remorse or no questions asked were the return policy. That's the first thing to ask. Second, why isn't the bank on the wire instruction anywhere near the claimed location of the shop? If the claimed location of the shop is in Paris, France, and the bank is located on a Russian naval base in Crimea, problem. Don't pass go. Do not pay $200 or any amount of dollars. Now, set the time to a specific hour and minute. Here's the deal. Look at the watch. Everyone sets watches to the same time online. It's a very generic look. It's going to be sometime between 10:05 and 10:12. So, if you have any questions about actual inventory versus phantom inventory, ask for a weird time. I like to ask that the watch be set to 3:47, 3:17, or 5:51, something that no default photo would depict. If you get a photo of the watch set to the requested time or times, good news, the seller has the watch. That's the bare minimum to sell you the watch. Okay, finally, request extra photos. You can lie by omission. Commission by omission is a favorite of online sellers. Don't let the seller show you only what the seller wants to show. The seller is showing you photos that tell the best possible story about the watch. Case back removed might reveal something like this. Movement shots, mandatory on a vintage timepiece. You don't see a movement shot, something's gone wrong, especially on an old Rolex like that, which Rolex itself will not service. So always get photos of the side of the case that's not depicted. Get photos of the piece of the dial you can't see in the off-center image. Get photos of the movement of the case shot. Get photos of the interior of the lugs to see if they've been gouged by strap tools. Just get a picture of anything that's not depicted, because half the time there's a reason for that, and it's not negligence. Okay, look for seller history and real references. Both vice and virtue leave a trail of evidence. Perfidy generally results in angry responses, either a Yelp review, a Google review, or bad feedback on eBay. Look for the eBay seller's history. If this is a new seller who has 30 pieces of feedback, all relating to something that have nothing to do with watches, problem. Do your homework. Real sellers have a real footprint and real references willing to give you names, emails, and phone number to verify. No paper trail, no evidence, no footprint, no deal. That's what I always say. Okay, other problems. Mistake people make, and this is a rancorous one. Failing to ensure your significant other is okay with the purchase. Huge minefield right here. And for reasons that have everything to do with household comedy and diplomacy, get it right. It's important because nothing ruins a good thing, the watch and piece within your household, including your White House, like secrecy. Now, it's important to use a strategy to get around this hurdle. Strategies are important. Have one ready. Fortunately, I've got your back. There are 3 principal approaches to making sure your significant other is okay. Strategy number 1, dual use. One agreed watch for both to wear, or at the very least, you make this a selling point when trying to bargain for some money to buy your next watch. A 36mm day-date might be a great dual-purpose arrangement. I would say this, though. Inherently, this is a compromised agreement because size and style, functions, vibe, character, all of this can be at variance between partners, so you might wind up with a watch that neither one really likes. This is not diplomacy. You want to be 100% fulfilled. This is buying a luxury item. So skip to the next one, because I've rarely seen a case where 2 people in a relationship are equally into watches, and that includes 2 guys who, in theory, should both be into watches. Watches are for guys, 2 guys, no problem, right? Wrong. It's always an issue. And between men and women, in 4+ years of doing this, I've seen one case where the man and the woman, the husband and the wife, were equally into watches for the exact same reasons. A cool couple, they're customers, they went to the AWCI Build-A-Watch workshop and they each built and bought their own watch. That's cool, but there's just that one couple in 4 years. Now, I've seen one case in 4 years in which the woman got the man into watches and was the driver behind the collecting. Again, rarity. We're talking unicorns here. I've seen them. You probably won't. So let's move on to fair exchange. The idea that I give something to you that you want that is not a watch, and you give me a certain amount of license to buy the watch that I want. Great story. One of the top watchmakers in our country. I'm going to keep his identity secret because these things tend to get out. Apparently, some people watch this show. And let me just say that he is one of the top watchmakers in the country. And if you're familiar with the certification agencies who actually accredit watchmakers, you probably know who this is. But he's into drag racing. Drag racing is to him what watches are to the rest of us. So he has an idea. In exchange for $1 that his wife spends, he can bargain for $4 to spend on race car parts. And he's into NHRA drag racing. So it's not just the money. He will go apparel shopping with his wife. She likes to shop. He hates shopping. He'll convince her the time has come. You deserve that dress. You deserve those shoes. You deserve those accessories. And he'll actually spend the time to go buy them with her. So it's the combination of the time and the money that earns him that 4-to-1 ratio. I would want to scream. That makes me want to scream. Guys, you know exactly what I mean. That is purgatory. That's what the place between heaven and hell looks like. Closer to hell, I'm sure. So, slush fund. This is the example that works in every case. Have a slush fund for each member of the relationship. Both of you have your mad money. You have yours, I have mine. This bypasses all of the foregoing headaches. It's the way to go. It does require that you individually save a bit more. You don't bargain for that one $8,000 chunk that you've both saved, but at the same time, you don't have to ask permission or make apologies. And that's how I live my life. That's the bachelor option, guys. That's living like you're still free. Okay, friends in the box. I can see we have GB 1014 saying, or just tell her they're all fakes. Yeah, until she notices the $10,000 hole in your bank account. And I have Steve Place, or Mike M saying 5 1/4 for a Panerai. And I can see Dave Lemieux saying, Tim, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. That's a great strategy. If you can deal with the rancor that results and the fire and brimstone that rained down on your personal Gomorrah, why not? Go for it. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission. Bold. And I can see Charlie is saying, my wife could care less. She's a keeper. Okay, jumping back to the topics for the evening. This is a big one. You settle for a good deal or a value proposition. This is bad news. I take some issue with the way, for example, Hodinkee frames these concepts, the value proposition. That's their language. They didn't invent it, but they probably popularized it. To my mind, value means getting more, not paying less, or getting exactly what you want for the right price. So let's unpack this and add examples. First, we're talking attainable goals and Grail watches. If your dream watch is this, you might have to settle. Granted. But let's talk about attainable grails that you and I and our friends in the hobby oftentimes target with some saving, some scrimping, and some lifestyle adjustments. So your Grail watch for our scenario is an Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch, $5,150. So, and that's US dollars. I'm not ragging on Hodinkee specifically here because they didn't create this idea. It's been around, but Dinky's case is instructive because it demonstrates all of the pitfalls and mistakes in this logic. This Hamilton that Steve Pulver wrote up, and wrote up capably, costs $2,200. It's a well-priced luxury watch if and only if that's the watch you actually want. Spend $2,200 on this if you actually want it. If this is the destination, congratulations, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow at a good price. But buying this because it's there is the horological equivalent of marrying someone because you're confident he or she will say yes. But you really want that person or that watch as a long-term partner? Probably not. You settled, and in a bad way that results in a commitment. Now you've got to shake that bogey off your tail. And here's the thing. Watches aren't quite a commitment on that level, but spending $2,200 for something you really don't want isn't a value proposition. It's an expensive waste and a diversion from your real goal. So, now you're out $2,200 and you're into a watch that you like, not love, rather than being $2,200 closer to your goal. You still want the Omega, and now you have to sell the Hamilton privately and hope you lose less. Or you wholesale or trade it to a watch dealer and you take a huge haircut because it's a Hamilton after all, and these low-priced watches rarely retain a lot of value. Or the path to the watch you wanted all along, assuming you complete the journey, becomes a $7,350 purchase instead of the original $5,150. So, here's the thing. If that sounds like you, this is what I recommend to do right by yourself. Buy something that is tons of fun and legit for watch guys. That is a very cheap watch that is laughing out loud fun every day you wear it. I would say go for a $200 35th anniversary Casio G-Shock DW 5035. This is the 5035 1B right there, and you'll love this thing. A multifunction, a beater. You will continue to enjoy and wear this after you attain your Grail watch. Or a $150 Swatch System 51. In my case, the System 51 System Frog that you see right there. Automatic winding, 90-hour power reserve, true mechanical Swiss watch, and that's a real value proposition, guys. That's money that can be reasoned, that you won't miss, and that won't set you back materially from your goal. That's a value proposition. Guys, viewer wrist shots, you keep them coming, and I'm loving it. Alec T of Hong Kong shares his father's retirement trophy. He tells me that where he is, Rolex Daytonas are as common as tea. His dad originally wanted the VC Overseas two-tone after giving up on the Daytona, but fell in love with this model, and I can't think of a better way to settle, guys. That is trading up, not trading in. If that's how you settle, I actually endorse that strategy. Now, a Mintaz N, longtime customer of Watch You Want, then Goffberg, and then Watchbox, regales us with the perpetual flagship. Do we have a Mintaz image right there? The perpetual flagship of IWC, perpetually rendered with the Kurt Claus perpetual calendar module. Red, gold, black dial. I love it. Thank you for the watches and wheels. And by the way, styling with that blue cuff. Riley D rocks an FP Journe Chronomet Resonance 3. That is the 2010 dial with the rose gold movement. And note, he has it set, unlike the original Resonance, so you can see 24-hour distinction. He's actually got that set to PM rather than AM. Note the perfectly synchronized seconds hand. I love the attention to detail. Michael D brings down the house and brings down the curtain on this show with 5 watches, all purchased from the Watchbox. Michael, thank you for trusting our team. Send your wrist shots and watch photos to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. And remember, the fun continues on Tim_Masso on Instagram. After we stop chatting, I start posting. This is actually the better way to reach me instead of my email, because I do update in real time. Comment below, click the link to win our Seiko Astron GPS Solar. I'm giving it away all month of October, announcing at the end of the month. You could walk away with the $1,600 value. But for now, guys, I value you, your time, your attention, and the fact that you make the best job in the world possible. Thanks to you, thanks to my crew. This has been Watches Tonight, Time Out, Tim Out, and thanks for logging on.